You are listening to Rouge Radio, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
It's time to get the point as Rouge Radio is ready to kick off.
Ready!
The best football talk with the best in the business.
So what is the cost? You have 2 first-round picks this year because the Argos are dumb enough to trade for Drew Willie.
A few rookies.
We go directly to the on-field product. We welcome to the show the 20th overall pick in this past Sunday's CFL draft, DeAndre Wright of the Alouettes. DeAndre, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And the occasional Hall of Famer.
Please welcome Doug Brown, who is one of the members of the current class of 2016 in the CFL Hall of Fame. Doug, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, guys, for the kind words and for having me on the program.
Rouge Radio is on the air. Here's your hosts, Robert Dalton and Tony Allen.
Well, it was bound to happen. It was bound to happen. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are no longer undefeated, but they're still 9-1. So it's still a big deal. It's the Rouge Radio podcast powered by the Canadian Football Podcast Network. This is episode 447. My name is Robert Dalton. You can follow me on Twitter at Rouge Dalton. Joining me, as always, my good friend Tony Allen, and you can find him on Twitter at Tony Rouge. Tony, it's the last couple of nights before you make the trek east to Regina for like a month.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
No, I'm not excited to be making that trip. And I don't know anything about Regina. Maybe it's going to be a fantastic city. I guess time's going to tell on that one. It's more the 4.5-5 hour drive it's going to take me to get there. That's going to be the rough thing. So we'll see how it goes. But yes, enjoy my time here at home, sleeping in my own bed, and then next time we do this podcast, I'll be in Regina. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll run into some people, some listeners. We'll see what happens.
Oh, there we go. The Piffles gang are obviously in Regina. There's some very notable Regina listeners that we have that are following our podcast and listen to our podcast as well. So that will be interesting. You being a Stampeder fan, are you resenting the 5-hour drive or the 4-week stay?
No, actually, if anything, when we found out, when we got the word we're going to Regina, the boss said, listen, you're all going to Regina, because oddly enough, this used to be a volunteer kind of job. The posting went up, and surprisingly enough, nobody signed up to go to the Regina job. So it got to the point where, guess what, everyone, you're going to Regina now, whether you like it or not. You're being told to go to Regina. And then I got talking to some guys. I'm like, oh, I'm a big Calgary Stampeders fan. I said, I got to admit, I really want to see Mosaic Stadium. It's a CFL stadium. Like, regardless who plays there, regardless where my loyalties lie, I still, like everyone, have a checklist of CFL barns I want to go to. I've been to Skydome when Toronto played there. I don't know if that counts anymore. I've never been to BMO, but I've been to Skydome. Obviously been to McMahon, been to Commonwealth, been to BC Place. So it's like, hey, I want to get Mosaic off of the checklist now. And talking to the one guy, he's like, oh, I'm a big Stampeders fan too. Let's go to a game. I said, the 19th BC's there. I want to see Nathan Rourke. So we're chatting, and next thing everyone's like, yeah, we'll go. And like, we'll wear our Calgary Stampeders. We'll be those douchebags that go to a game where your team's not playing, and we'll just go and we're Calgary Stampeders jersey. And then turns out there's like another guy that's a Stampeders fan, and another guy that just wants in on the fun. So I told him I'd let him a Stampeders jersey. So I'm not sure if it'll be the 19th game. I think there's actually quite a homestand now for Saskatchewan coming up through August and September. So one of those next 3 home games, if you see a little corner of Mosaic Stadium with like 10 red jerseys all grouped together, probably getting kicked out, it's going to be me and my coworkers. So we'll all in fun. We're going to be very respectable, but we just want to go and be those guys that wear a team jersey and they're not even involved in the game, but we're still going to wear our Stamps jerseys.
Well, it'd probably be a good idea to go to the 19th game because Saskatchewan's at home to BC. Then it's a home and home with BC. And then of course it's the Labor Day Classic. And I'll say the Labor Day weekend with Winnipeg. And that is most likely sold out. Then you got the Banjo Bowl the week after that. And Saskatchewan's home to Edmonton on the 16th. So unless it's a more than a 4-week stay, that 19th game is looking to be really, really, really good. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I can tell you with these jobs, if they tell you a month, it's going to be at least a month and a half, 2 months. Guaranteed minimum is going to be 2 months. If they say they want the job done in 2 months, it's going to be at least 2. So we'll see.
There we go. So, I mean, if you're watching this live through Twitter and as well as through YouTube, you can know that Tony is again refreshed his backdrop, and he's got the Hamilton
classic
Tiger Cat banner.
Yeah. Circa what? Early 2000s they got rid of that? 2003? 2002 they got rid of that?
I would say that. That's nice.
It got to about 2002, and then I think Bob Young took over, and they went with the more cartoony tiger. That was more 90s, 2000.
Yeah, very, very retro.
But our fact checkers will tell us the exact year they kicked that logo to the curb and went with the more cartoony style.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I can't wait. We'll probably have a lot of things to talk about, but that will be the one thing that people will talk about. So if you're watching this live, you can see the little ticker at the bottom. You can know that's an affiliate partner as part of the Rouge Radio podcast with Sports Interactive, SIA.com/Rouge. Get your betting on. As Tony has said before, your first deposit will be matched 100% up to, I believe, $500. Get your betting on. Did you manage to play some bets? I know that we were heavily active on Twitter talking up the bet, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah,
completely wrong. Like let's go. I think I might have been like one. No. I think I was 3 for 4 in regards to pick'em, but the point spread was way off.
Yeah,
like I had Winnipeg winning and Winnipeg covering what I think it ended up being like the 9.5 points. They ended up losing, so that's gone. They had the under. Yeah. Hamilton covered the spread and they won, and they got the over. Similar with BC. Well, BC didn't cover BC didn't cover the spread, but they won and they got the over. Saskatchewan covered the spread, but they were over. I thought the good bet with them would have been under, and I was way off on a lot of those. And how did you do?
Yeah, I did good on my my straight bets. Obviously, I think I was the favorite. Actually, I took the Tiger Cats, and they were technically dogs in that one, so I won that one. I won on BC. I won on Saskatchewan. I covered the over on the Tiger Cats game. I did not expect BC and Calgary to explode for points like they did, because I'd been hyping up their defenses going into the game, and I don't think I think I took the under on Saskatchewan, but Edmonton scored a little bit too many points and screwed that one up on me.
Yeah, and it's funny how you mentioned that, because BC's defense was pretty good. Out of 40 points that Calgary scored, 14 of them were on a pick six and a punt return, or kickoff return. So BC's defense still pretty good. Calgary's defense definitely missing Trey Roberson and where else were they?
Not going into the half, they didn't.
Jameer Thurman. Well, I mean, yeah,
going into the half, they didn't. Calgary's defense was on point.
Is that
after that it got a little iffy?
Yeah, is that something? Because that's not the first time that we saw BC having to make a comeback. Is this going to be a trend? Because they did the same thing like a couple of weeks ago against Saskatchewan.
I know, and I saw all the tweets coming out in the first half of that football game. I'm like, you better shut your mouth, because we did the exact same thing to BC against Saskatchewan. Oh, they're up against a team. Saskatchewan's dominating. That's why I'm like, keep my mouth shut, but I should have tweeted out to every Stamps fan or anyone talking about, Rourke doesn't look good. Rourke doesn't have it. BC, this is what happens when you meet a good team. I just was like, shut your mouth. They did this to Saskatchewan, and sure enough, they did it again. And you know what? There's people, and the thing is, there's people, like I gave all the props to Rourke, and of course, Stampeders fans, they want to justify the loss. They want to know how it could happen. So it's like, we gave it away. It didn't help that the Stamps disappeared. Like, yeah, but if Rourke and the BC Lions don't capitalize on it, who cares? It's one thing to say, well, we gave it away. We blew. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if you if you played crap, if the other team doesn't capitalize on it, it doesn't matter. And Nathan Rourke capitalized on it. They made him pay. Obviously, Lucky Whitehead made him pay. Amazing catch there. I think it was the play before that where Rourke hit the guy in the face with the football. And I was laughing, and I'm like, I was about to send out a tweet about how, oh man, that's going to make every wrong highlight of the year program at the end of the year. And as I was getting ready to send, Nathan Rourke just burns the defense again that put them on the 20 something. And it was like, gosh darn it. Like, that's the game. I knew they were like, I'm like, that's the game. Unbelievable.
You know, if you're not a BC Lions fan, which is fine, but if you're not, how much does it like tick you off to know that in certain situations, A, you know that Rourke is going to go deep. B, you know that Rourke is going to complete that pass deep. And C, the receiver's open. Like I can't remember who was in coverage on that Lucky Whitehead, but Lucky Whitehead had a good 2 to 3 yards on the DB to catch that. Like, that is just like, that's almost kind of like deflating for your confidence. Or if you're like, okay, if they make this, oh, it's no big deal. But then it was a 3rd and 2, I think that's what it was, and they go deep, and like, that's some balls on Nathan Rourke.
Yeah,
and I have a feeling we're going to talk more about Nathan Rourke in a few minutes. But let's go to Global Rouge 2.0, and these are the cities and countries that are listening to the Rouge Radio podcast. For the countries, we got Canada, United States, Mexico, Australia, United Kingdom, Bermuda, Germany, Switzerland, France, and Guadeloupe. Top cities: Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, St. Albert, Vancouver, British Columbia, Fort Collins, Victoria, Granby, Quebec, and Ottawa, Ontario. We didn't get anybody talking about whether or not or where the heck Fort Collins is. So anybody have an idea as to where Fort Collins is? I have no idea where Fort. No idea. Canadian Football Podcast Network's fantasy team. It was my job to represent Rouge Radio against Steve Staffanek from the Piffles podcast. It was close, but I had about 55 points to his. I believe it was somewhere in the 70s. Close enough to the point where it was that one. You know, the TSNs or whoever, the CFL's fantasy, their scoring structure needs a heavy upgrade. There are some players that are still like 2,500 and they're relatively good. Whereas, you know, there's some players that are like 13,000 or something like that, and they just don't deserve it. And so I got stuck. I think I added Taylor Cornelius as my quarterback. And when he came up, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be I'm going to make this comeback. And sure enough, I think he had a couple of incompletions, and he threw that interception at the worst time if you're an Elks fan. So if you're an Edmonton fan and you're mad that you are now 1,030 days in between home victories, I'm sorry, that's on me. I would have to take that one. Thoughts on the previous week before we can move forward?
No, I mean, it was an interesting week. Ups and downs. Obviously, we saw Montreal pull off the upset. I'm not going to lie. I don't think that was the best for the Canadian Football League. The longer Winnipeg stayed undefeated, the more fun it was for the CFL. So to have that gone is sad. I think the sobering epiphany I had after the BC win and seeing the line 7-1, and now with Winnipeg not having a perfect season, all of a sudden it almost exemplifies how good of a season the BC Lions are having, when we talked about how Winnipeg was the class of the Canadian Football League because they were undefeated, and with just one loss, the Lions are right there. And Winnipeg's on a bye week this week, so a win, and Winnipeg only has a 1-game cushion on the BC Lions after pumping Winnipeg's tires for being the class of the league and the measuring stick, and it's like, wow, there's BC right there behind Edmonton with back-to-back. Like if they take back-to-backs against Saskatchewan here, I mean, obviously Winnipeg plays first, so it doesn't really help the excitement around saying, but how important is it that Winnipeg wins that game after their bye week, or they could be staring at a tie for first place? Well, I guess that would still be one game behind, but I mean, Winnipeg could be staring at a tie for first place with the BC Lions really quick here after we talked about like the mega legacy Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I mean, we've been talking about BC, but maybe how much under the radar did we not realize how good of a season BC was having? We were more focused on Nathan Rourke, but that was the big takeaway, the epiphany, like, holy crap, with a bye week and another BC Lions win, Winnipeg has someone knocking on their door very closely.
Mm-hmm. No, I and it's not the same. And it's like I said, and I was going to touch on it because I think a lot of people, you said that this is not good for the CFL, but there was a lot of people that were like cheering for it. Yeah. And it was like, I think I kind of briefly talked about it last week, that I think the Bombers are a victim of their own success. So no matter what happens, that what the reason that I say that is, there were a lot of fan bases that were cheering that took that L as a Grey Cup victory almost. Mm-hmm. And some of those fan bases were not even involved in that one game. So I thought that was like, that's like, you're a Stamps fan. You kind of experienced this for like 2 decades, almost like ever since Dick Huffnagel took over that organization. That every year it almost seemed like the Stampeders were in the Grey Cup. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't win it, they had a fantastic season. So a lot of fans were ecstatic when a team that was dominated during the regular season failed to win the Grey Cup, right? I mean, so it's just, like I said.
And here, when I say it's bad for the CFL, I don't mean like it's like the fan interest, like you said, everyone's going to cheer for the best team to lose. That's what they want. You don't want the best to be the best anymore. I just mean outside of the fan base, for the league itself, as a league, observers outside, it wasn't I think they're better off having the Bombers undefeated, because then that resentment grows from other fan bases. And now even more attention is drawn to, are the Bombers ever going to lose? And then that need, that resent against the Bombers increases, and even more attention is on the league and the Bombers now. And even if they are this evil empire now and everybody hates them and is begging for them to lose, nobody's going to stop following the CFL at this point anymore, because their whole sports is consumed by this need for the Bombers to lose. But now that that's gone, we'll see where it goes, especially if BC catches them. Then, wow, it would appear the optics of decreasing the Bomber season seems to increase, and BC steps into the forefront. But hey, maybe slipping into the background and letting BC have some of the daggers tossed at them now for the rest of the season. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It will be interesting for the next couple of weeks, because Winnipeg gets a well-needed bye, their first bye, whereas some other teams have already had 2. And the fact that they're getting some players back healthier, which is something that a lot of teams would definitely need. Here is what is trending, at least this past week, in the CFL. John Hodge on Twitter announced earlier today that Andrew Harris possibly had an MRI for possible torn pectoral muscle, possibly gone for the rest of the season. That would be killer. Some stats to throw at you. Going back to Saturday night's game, here's some stats. And it's the first time I'd have to actually Google this, but I'll have to fact check this. Cody Fajardo. Total passes, 130 yards passing. Total penalties for the Edmonton Elks, 140. 140. Actually, no, that's not. 12 penalties for 140 yards. Matching the first time in possibly that there is more penalties on one team than the other team had more passing yards. Like, that's brutal. That's brutal if you're a Saskatchewan fan. And because we are like the Nathan Rourke Fan Club podcast, John Hodge, another kind of fact check here. If you split up his performance into two chunks, Nathan Rourke still had 2 of the 4 best passing games this week. At number 1, Matt the Cloud Bethel Thompson with 287 yards, Zach Colaros with 251, Nathan Rourke's fourth quarter, 246, Nathan Rourke's quarter 1 to quarter 3, 242, and then behind him, Trevor Harris with 213, Taylor Cornelius 209, Bo Levi Mitchell 206, Matthew Schultz 176, and Cody Fajardo with 130. And that is what's trending in the CFL this week so far. Any thoughts about that Cody Fajardo stat? That's just awful in my opinion. That's just And we talked about betting. When is there going to be a prop bet when the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to realize that their right tackle, Natai Rogers, needs to be replaced? Like I have the over-under set by Labor Day. Because I can't. Edmonton throughout that game was rushing three, and they were still getting constant pressure on Cody. And it looked like Cody Fajardo's knee kind of held up. He needed that bye week, but his accuracy sucked. Sucked. Like he was 4 or 5 yards short on that one interception that ran back. And I can't remember if they just turned that into a field goal. I think it was just a field goal that they got off that point, that turnover. But man, yeah, Saskatchewan had some hard times up until the later stages of that fourth quarter. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like against the BC Lions, regardless if they are going to be at home or not. Let's go to another favorite segment, and I hate to have this again, but I think we know where Tony is going to go with this one.
Oh my God, number 1. Seinfeld, you magnificent bastard.
Tony, who grabbed your attention for this?
It was tough. A lot of great candidates this week. It was tough. There was a lot of great candidates this week, but it was hard to ignore another 4-touchdown game, 9 touchdowns in 2 games by one player, 9 touchdowns by one quarterback in 2 games, 2 passing. Obviously, the 2 rushing were just diving in, not a ton of yards there. 4 touchdowns on the day. 488 yards. Unbelievable. Continues to not just make a name for himself, but destroy the Canadian Football League. He is destroying the Canadian Football League. And again, I don't care if Calgary took their foot off the gas, if they made mistakes. There is no lower form of loser talk then they didn't beat us, we beat ourselves. That is loser talk. That is disrespectful. I hate they didn't beat us, we beat ourselves. Even if you want to come up with 100 examples of where that's true, at the end of the day, if you screw up and you get burnt, the other team did their job. And Nathan Rourke stormed the BC Lions back in that second half. And you can't say enough about this guy. Nathan Rourke, you magnificent bastard.
So Nathan Rourke, in his short career, has 3 400-yard passing games.
Unbelievable.
I had to double-check this following stat. Do you know who else has only 3 400-yard passing games?
Doug Flutie?
Bo Levi Mitchell.
What?
Yeah, I had to fact check. John Hodge, a friend of the program, tweeted out earlier today that he and Bo Levi Mitchell now have the same amount of 300-yard passing games in their career.
I mean, I knew Bo took off at the beginning of his career, but I would not have called that.
No, like that took me. I was like, wait a minute, no, that's not right. And sure enough, I had to go through his stats through CFL. It's correct. He had a lot of high 300-yard games. Like he had Bo Levi in the middle of that 2000, like 14-15 was crazy good. Like it did not matter that Stampeders had a good defense. That offense was rolling.
Yeah, there was like a 4-year window where Bo Levi Mitchell just went out and did anything he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what you did.
He was the bully of quarterbacks where it just didn't it was like yeah, I'm just going to do this because I can, and I'll just make fun of your mother while I do it. And he did that on social media too. All right, so Nathan Work is his third consecutive Magnificent Bastard. Yeah, I think the only time he did not win was
bye week.
Yeah, it's just bye week. Yeah, that's right. Oh man! All right, so there we have it. So Nathan Works a Magnificent Bastard. We talked about what's trending. It sucks for Andrew Harris. So I was talking about Andrew Harris, torn pectoral muscle, could be gone for the reason. But hey, listen, I don't want to rub salt in the wound for this guy, because if it sucks because you want this guy to end his season on a high note, right? You want this guy to, break records, break career records, but it's kind of like we knew this was coming. He's hit. I think he's 35 in a couple of weeks, if he's not 35 already. He missed the 2020 season like everybody did, and he was often injured in the 2021 season. So it's not like we saw this coming. And credit to the Bombers management who, could we get a guy who basically put this team on his back in 2019 to win that first Grey Cup record or Grey Cup championship? Or do we go with two guys who have probably a longer career span throughout the next couple of years? And I honestly, it didn't look like it for the first couple of weeks, but now it's shaping out to be the Bombers made the right decision. And like I said, it just sucks for Toronto Argonaut fans because that's a ratio breaker at a key position. But it's not like that they're going to go. AJ Ouellette is, if he stays healthy, I think he can find some way to be protective in that Toronto backfield. But any thoughts before we move on to the week 11 preview?
Yeah, we'll leave it at your backhanded attempt to sound remorseful for Andrew Harris, but just wanted to rub in how right the Blue Bombers were for letting him go.
No, I know, because I think there's a lot of people that were like, hey, listen, you're going to ruin a dynasty by making this decision. And it's like, well, no, you don't. You continue dynasties by making these tough decisions. Like, how many times did Wally Buono make these out of control decisions? He was known for getting rid of guys probably 1 or 2 years before their expiration date, so to speak. Like Barron Simpson played for like 6 years after BC released them, but probably 3 of them were good, and he was injured for that third year too. But I digress. So it sucks for Andrew Harris. It's just like it's a crappy way to finish off your career should he not come back for 2023. Let's go to week 11 preview. This is sponsored by our new sponsor affiliate, obviously, Sports Interactive. And again, your first deposit will be matched 100% up to $500 at SIA.com/Rouge. And of course, this is also sponsored by our good friends at SeatGiant.ca. Enter promo code Rouge for discounts on sporting events in your area. First game on the docket is, well, first I have to get up the schedule here because I'm an idiot. I actually had it on my
and that's a backslash, not a forward slash. So seeing how we're talking about you being an idiot, that's a backslash, not a forward slash.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. Friday.
Well, try using forward slash and see what happens. You may not. But
Friday has a doubleheader. I think this might be the first time this season. I could be wrong. First Friday night football doubleheader. We've become accustomed to having Saturday doubleheaders, and we do have one of those as well. But it starts off in Ottawa. The Edmonton Elks go into Ottawa, the nation's capital, to face the Red Blacks coming off their bye. Tony, where do you see this one going?
I see this going in the Elks' favor on this one. I know they're going to be heading out east and playing in Ottawa, but I don't know. It felt like there was something watching Cornelius play that maybe some things are clicking. I don't think he was, fantastic. We haven't been bragging about him all show, but we went up against a solid Saskatchewan team, and he did pretty well. Like the only thing that we did mention was a pretty gross interception he threw at the end of the football game at a bad time. But I don't know. This is just an Ottawa team that I don't think has anything to offer us much in 2020. I mean, I hope it comes around. I think this is just where Ottawa is right now as they try and figure stuff out. They had the massive overhaul. It's not coming together. They actually looked like they could have. I mean, there's a potential they could have moved forward with Jeremiah Mazzoli, but I haven't seen anything through these 10 weeks that makes me think Ottawa is trending upward or promising. Edmonton, just they're my pick this week. I just think because they're a little bit better. 28-13 is what I'm going to give to the Elks in this victory.
Yeah, the Ottawa Redblacks are giving up 12 touchdowns to 5 and also creating 5 interceptions. Edmonton, 18 touchdowns, and a lot of that had to do with Nathan Rourke. So we take Nathan Rourke out of the equation. Edmonton's defensive stats don't really look that bad.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Edmonton found their thing this year is they're finding ways to lose. And when you're a team that likes to find ways to lose, these winnable games become a lot more like Edmonton should win, but at the same time, Edmonton should also lose. You know, I don't know if you're a Boy Meets World fan, and I'm hopefully no, you're not. Okay, so a lot of you won't get this reference, but a lot of people who listen to the show, I digress. If they're Boy Meets World fans, there was an episode where the older brother was playing. I can't remember who he was playing. He was playing a game of pool. They spent like 5 hours or whatever going through the night, and not one of them made any shots. In fact, it was like one of those little things like what could go wrong is going to go wrong. Like they hit the pool, they hit the white ball and it exploded, or or something strange happened. And I feel like this game is going to be like the real life version of that game. And as much as I think that Edmonton is winning, it should win this one, I think Ottawa coming off the bye, being at home after that last performance that they had against the Calgary Stampeders, I think the motivation should be there to make this ugly game winnable, and they should end up winning this at home. I'm going to go off the track and pick the Ottawa Redblacks to win this one. I'm going to say 23-19 over the Edmonton Elks. Second half of the doubleheader is in Saskatchewan. You might actually be there. So if you're in Saskatchewan in this game, say hi to Tony Allen. The BC Lions, fresh off that, whatever you want to call that, kind of come from behind victory. Emotional. It's not a lot of emotional, just off the arm of one Nathan Rourke. Hashtag Rourke for Lou Marsh. The Saskatchewan Roughriders did not look pretty in that game against Edmonton. You'd be hard pressed to find a Rider fan that would actually say that they earned that win and that they were pretty perfect on that one. No, they have a lot of faults, and it's surprising to me that coming off the bye, they looked like a team that had been sleeping or that had been on like a bye for 3 straight weeks. That's what it looked like to me. The BC Lions might have kind of like a similar thing to happen a couple of weeks ago, coming off that high, coming out slow against Regina, against the Riders. But I think history is going to repeat itself. BC's run defense, pretty decent. Saskatchewan, again, does not like to run the ball, apparently. So they have to get their quarterback to do it. I say BC wins this one, maybe not in dramatic fashion as far as a route goes, but I think this will be pretty comfortable to cover the spread, whatever that may be. I think BC wins this one 30-20. Tony.
Yeah, Saskatchewan doesn't look impressive at all. They don't look scary. They haven't looked convincing the entire 2020 season. I don't care what anyone says. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but again, Saskatchewan has not looked like a good enough football team. They're a 500 club now. I don't care what the 5 and 4 is. They're basically a 500 club. Like even if they're one win over, this is going to be a season 500 club, and that's what I think. And BC just, as where Saskatchewan can hold on, Saskatchewan can let one slip, they can struggle back, they can pull away in the second half. you can bury the Riders and they're not going to come back. BC are fighters all the way, whether they run away with the football game or you try and keep them down, they will fight back. The BC Lions are never out of a football game. And I think Saskatchewan is really going to get hammered in this football game. Even if they manage to score first or grab a turnover or jump out to a 10-point lead and we have another, Saskatchewan's got this, BC's not real. I don't think Saskatchewan can hold it. Their best prayer is to get an early lead and hope BC can panic. But as we've seen, this isn't a BC Lions team that panics. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders are not the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They cannot dominate this BC Lions team the way Winnipeg was able to. Calgary is better than the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Calgary gave BC a run because they're better than the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And if anything, I would say Calgary has been bumped out of that top tier. Last week we talked about tiers. I had BC, Calgary, Winnipeg. If anything, I would bump Calgary down into a B category with Winnipeg and BC in A, maybe Saskatchewan in C, and everyone else at the D tier. I don't think this is going to be much of a game. Again, best case scenario for Saskatchewan, they get some quick points, but BC 32-16, I think it's another dominant performance from Nathan Rourke. And we talk about Nathan Rourke, but it's because it's a great BC Lions team, and it's Nathan Rourke and the BC Lions, and the whole team is pretty solid.
And how about Brian Burnham coming out of nowhere? It's like the Brian Burnham of old in that second half. And It's good to see out in BC. Let's go to Saturday, the opening game of the back-to-back doubleheader, or what have you. The battle of 3 and 6 teams. The Montreal Alouettes hosting the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Where do you see this one going?
At home, I think it's going to be Montreal's game. I think it's going to be another good one. I think Hamilton is not the best team in the East. Hamilton has not looked better than Toronto and Montreal. I don't think in any aspect. I don't think you can say it's Hamilton and then Toronto, Montreal. I don't think there's anything about this Hamilton Tiger Cats team anymore, despite the flag. Maybe I'm trying to make sure Tiger Cats fans don't completely hate me, so I put the flag up. But the Hamilton Tiger Cats are not anywhere separated in the East from Montreal and Toronto. They're 3 identical football teams. They're all not really good. They could all beat each other on any given Sunday, and it's equal. If I had to put the odds, it is just as likely that the Tiger Cats miss out of the playoffs with a West crossover as it is for them to make it. Right now, you might as well just put the 3 teams' pitchers on a dice, roll them, and see who comes out of the East. Honestly, the East can finish Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, Hamilton, Montreal, Toronto, Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton. They're all the 3 same teams. This week, they're in Montreal. Montreal's feeling good. Got nothing to do with game-to-game momentum. Montreal just feels really good. Trevor Harris, again, showing glimpses that he might be good, but also showing glimpses that he's horrible and not the answer. Hamilton, they are not better than any other team in the East. They are not. There's no, but Hamilton's a little bit better. They are not. They're not a little bit more talented. They're not a little more gifted. They're not a little bit better put together. All 3, Toronto, Montreal, Hamilton, all the same team. And on this weekend, I'm giving it, after last weekend, Montreal wins 26-21.
Yeah, I'm not on the Montreal train, so to speak. I'm giving them full credit for what they were able to do. I'm still Winnipeg's defense is good. That front 4 is good. Adam Big Hill is good. I'm still kind of concerned that it took them 4 cracks to get that that last touchdown against Winnipeg. Like that to me just screams lack of preparedness and lack of execution to me. Give all credit to Winnipeg to be able to go through, but that to me just is more on the Montreal side, in my opinion. Now you're going Montreal to come off that emotional victory against the Hamilton Tiger Cats at home. Theoretically, Montreal comes out of the gate pretty decent, explosive. That offense in Montreal does not allow coming out of the gate like that to like a big lead. It's not something built for that. They have Geno Lewis, they've got Jake Winicky, Tyson Philpott, Reggie White Jr. It's a very good receiving core up there, but they don't use the running game and they don't use those receivers consistently how they need to be used. And I think that is going to be something that makes this game go down to the wire when it's something that probably should be over by halftime. I agree with everything that you say on this one, and I think I'm just going to give the home field. At the time, I think Matthew Schultz still starts this game. I don't know what's going on with Dane Evans. Dane Evans may not even dress for this game. That probably changes my opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to go with Montreal 25-23 on this one. This is closer than it probably ends up or that it should be, but Montreal ekes out a victory to move into second place in the East.
And just to stay on the Tiger Cats, here's the thing, like you said, Dane Evans or Schultz affects your decision, and to me it's like it doesn't. Dane Evans isn't working. The Dane Evans experiment or experience, whatever you want to call it, it isn't working in Hamilton. He is not the guy. So to me, whether he starts or anything, I mean, maybe you have different thoughts on it. Is Dane Evans anything, much less the guy? Is he anything?
It's when I said that, it had nothing to do with my opinions on Dane Evans as a quarterback of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It was more of Dane Evans matches up well against the Montreal defense. And I think that is the key thing. Matthew Schultz probably will end up, because he played spot offense against the same defense, although with a different coordinator last year. But he played or he practiced against them, so he does know their tendencies and whatnot. But I just thought that matching up well against a defense, no matter how terrible you might have been performing or terrible you might be, plays a lot into how a game progresses and results in. So that's where I was going for on that one. So
that's fair.
Does Dane Evans starting get the Tiger Cats a notch, the knot in a close game that I'm predicting? Maybe not, but at least I think Dane Evans at the helm maybe weathers the early storm that I'm thinking that maybe Montreal comes out with. Yeah, and as the game progresses, I think that's where I was probably going. But I think Montreal, regardless, still pulls us out by that close margin. Last game of the week is the Calgary Stampeders going into BMO Field to face the Toronto Argonauts. Both these teams had some very demoralizing losses last week. Both of these teams, or Calgary's coming on an even day break, whereas Toronto actually has an extra day rest in between games. At home, without Andrew Harris, without a vaunting running attack, I think this changes their offense, their dynamic in their offense. H.E. Willett, if he's playing, is he going to have the same production as Andrew Harris has in the last couple of weeks? I don't think so. But if they don't go to him and they leave McLeod Bethel-Thompson back in the pocket, just chucking bombs, I don't like this game I have a feeling Calgary wins this one, and it's going to be kind of equal, or at least a tad better than that game against the Red Blacks a couple of weeks ago. I think Calgary is still a good team, minus the players that they're still missing on the defensive side, just because of who their opposition is in McLeod Bethel-Thompson. Toronto's defense is hit or miss, and against a team like Calgary that likes to spread the wealth, if Jalen Philpott's missing for any foreseeable future, I mean, we'll catch wind of that as the days progress. But I do like Calgary's chances, even without those players, against this team in Toronto. Low scoring game. I'll say 22-10. What do you say?
I think this is the game Calgary definitely needed after that heartbreaker against the BC Lions. It feels so good after the last couple of years to say Bo Levi Mitchell isn't the problem with the Stampeders this season. It feels that way. Maybe it's a mental thing and I've just wanted to be able to say it after the last couple of seasons. It just feels like Bo Levi Mitchell isn't the problem this season. And it feels good to say that. Unfortunately, the defense, I don't know. I've been really hyping them up, but they had a rough one against BC. Let's just lay it all out there. They had a rough one against BC. This is the game they need. Toronto isn't. They're not built right now to face a team like the Calgary Stampeders. And in a league where we say the season doesn't really start until Labor Day, I feel like when Labor Day weekend is over, we're going to know the West. And everyone loves to say, oh, the West is blah. It's so tough. Oh, the West, blah, blah. Again, I'm going to unpopular take here, hot take here. Saskatchewan has 2 against the BC Lions and 2 against the Bombers. We could know the West, at least the top 3. BC, Winnipeg. And if Calgary does what it's supposed to, it's going to get Edmonton twice by the end of the Labor Day Classics back-to-back. And they've got Toronto. I mean, where we like to say the season doesn't start until Labor Day, with that road Saskatchewan has and how iffy they are, maybe the top 3 in the West is decided by the end of Labor Day. So this is going to be a huge one for Calgary. They need this one. So I'm taking them 28-17.
Yeah, and I think you're being a little bit more generous to Toronto's score. I honestly, they're going to have to be. I mean, the one thing is that they're going to have to be more aggressive defensively. And the problem with Toronto is the way that they're built is that the more aggressive they are, the more penalties that they will be susceptible to, especially in that secondary. And Calgary is a team that take advantage of those kind of mistakes, those kind of penalties at the worst time. So,
when the point spreads come out on Wednesday or whatever, I may sing a different tune. I may reevaluate there and, see what the betting lines come out and where I may want to throw my money in when it's on the line. But you know what? Again, and the Stampeders, as much as I've been hyping their defense, they are susceptible to these big blunders. So maybe I just was giving Toronto the benefit of some questionable defensive shortcomings.
Yeah. Well, that'll wrap it up for episode 447. Again, I can't stress this enough that pay attention to our Twitter feeds at Rouge Radio, myself at Rouge Adults, and Tony at Tony Rouge. We, as soon as the betting lines open through Sports Interaction, we will tweet them out and we will monitor all the depth charts to give you the best way to earn, I guess, every bang for your buck, going forward. And again, we stress gamble responsibly. And if you feel that it is becoming a problem, feel free to seek help. There are resources available for you. Again, that's SIA.com/Rouge. And again, your first deposit will give you a match of up to 100%, up to $500. So get your bet on. Tony, any final thoughts?
Yeah, the one prop bet I didn't pull the trigger on, and I was going to. Winnipeg had only give up the points to the opposition, like the first points of the game. Winnipeg had only given them up 3 times. One of the teams they gave it up to was Montreal in their earlier meeting. And I was going to I'm going to put my money on Montreal on this prop bet to score first. And I didn't. And that's money out of my pocket. So first, don't question yourself. If it feels good, I was going to do it. I lost money on that one by not going with my gut. And the second thing I want to say, I just love begging on anti-CFL people. I love the Canadian Football League. I'm very proud of it. And I just think it's hilarious how the people who came after me the first time I sent out hashtag Rourke for Lou Marsh, I was told to calm my tits because it was too easy. It's too early. Wait to the playoffs. Wait till he beats somebody. Yada, yada, yada. He's not worthy. All these other people. And 2 weeks later, I'm being told to enjoy Nathan Rourke because he's gone. He's so good. He's going to the NFL next season. People that hate to see it, they just don't even care about what they say as long as they sound angrier than they are smart. So I can't be proud of Nathan Rourke to think he's going to be the Canadian Athlete of the Year, but I should also enjoy him while I can because he's so good. It's no doubt he's going to go to the NFL next season. So I love the stupidity, the hypocrisy of Canadians that think they're too good for the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Again, we mentioned episode 447. 3 weeks. We've got the one and only Kevin Glenn coming on the program for our milestone episode 450. I cannot wait for that one. And of course, after that, we will be moving from a broadcasting schedule from Sundays. And of course, on that week, that will be Monday because after the Labor Day games, we will be moving strictly to Wednesdays to monitor all the bets and depth charts and whatnot. So we can't wait for that. For Tony, I am Daltz. Thanks for listening. And we will definitely see and hear from you next week.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.